Don Gibson is also here as a council member and guest, and welcome, Don.
Thank you.
Great to have you here. So I think we can go ahead and call the meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda is to approve the October 15th meeting minutes, which I sent out earlier. Let me know if anyone has any corrections or additions. Okay, hearing none, we'll accept them as approved.
Yeah. One question: why am I without video?
We can hear you.
What?
We don't see you.
Yeah. What do you do to? Not that you need to see me. I just wondered.
Down at the bottom of your screen, there should be a thing that says mute. Right next to mute should be a start video,
Okay.
depending on what operating system you're using.
So there. Okay. Start my video. Oh.
There you are.
Yeah.
Yay.
Okay. All right.
Good to see you. It's great. So the next item on the agenda are parks updates, and the first item is trail and tree maintenance. I want to thank Ron and his crew for clearing the fallen tree over the Blue Trail. I was disappointed when I saw that last week after we got kind of a windy day. I was actually walking the trails with my grandchildren, and they were asking me why so many trees fall. And I had a nice discussion about the emerald ash borer and how that has killed a lot of the trees in our woods because we have a lot of ash. So we got to talk about invasive species and all kinds of things, but at least I was glad that tree, if you didn't see it across the trail, it was right in the middle of where the Boy Scouts put down gravel on the Blue Trail in Harrods Creek Park. So I'm really glad that tree didn't decide to fall when the Scouts were out there putting the gravel down on the trail.
Yeah.
Because it was a pretty good sized tree. It certainly would have done some damage. But our prospect maintenance crew has cleared that, so that's great. And I know that Lynn Granger, I believe, Lynn, you went, and I meant to be there but forgot. You went and looked at the Putney Pond path from the parking lot to the Woodlands trailhead. And I don't know if you have anything you want to say about what your thinking is on doing the maintenance there.
Well, when we did that, because the area was all grass, we put fabric down, put the gravel on top of the fabric, and what apparently that has done is stop the gravel from being able to lock into the dirt. And then as you go down that trail, it's not quite even in a few spots. So I think it's a relatively simple thing when I can get some folks together is to simply go cut out some of the sections of the fabric, pull it out from under the gravel, re-rake it, and I think it'll be okay. It's not that bad now. I mean, it's passable. It's not a safety hazard, what have you. It's just more of an appearance thing. And where we have the issues, only in a handful of spots, not the whole length of the trail, just certain spots where the gravel has shifted from one side to the other because it's sitting on a smooth base because of that fabric. So we will try to get that fixed at some time when I can get some bodies together to do that.
In a discussion I had with Stuart, he also suggested the parts where it's shifted are where there's sort of a slope. And his recommendation, I think it's a good one, is to pull up the fabric and level that part so there won't be quite as much of a slope. And when we get a crew together, we can get the Maddoxes out of the storage shed in Harrods Creek Park, and it won't take much to level that out before we put the gravel back down.
Gravel needs to be moved back too, so yes, that would need to put it back.
Okay. And I don't know, Harold, if you had a chance to look at that one section of the Green Trail that I talked about last month. I think I mentioned in the minutes that Stuart said he's happy to lead a work day. He needs some other strong bodies. And I think you were going to take a look at it, but you weren't quite sure where that was. And I don't know if you've been able to locate what we were talking about.
I've passed it probably a dozen times in the last month, and I don't know. I mean, I know it's in that first section, but I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, I can go with him or somebody or whoever and help if needed, figure out what we can do.
I was hiking yesterday by myself without the grandchildren, and I actually kind of piled some of the rocks in that area up. I don't know if I helped or hurt it because I didn't have anything to dig them in, but at least it gives you something besides the clay to kind of stand on. But maybe one day when you're off, maybe I could even go out there with you and we could talk about it. So
Good.
you can let me know. Ron, do you have anything else to add about tree or trail? And Harold, maybe you do too, because I know we talked earlier today, but any of the tree or trail maintenance?
Yeah, we had another tree fall over at Putney's Pond and hit the first bridge
Oh, no.
coming off the not the big bridge, the
Oh,
first one coming off the path we were just talking about. That side, the actual Putney's Pond side. Uh, did some damage, nothing that can't be repaired pretty easily. Put a new board on the outside to brace it up, and it's got some rot on a few of the cross slats. Shouldn't be too big of a deal to replace, and it busted out some of the handrail. I'll have to find some half-inch by half-inch and redo that, but shouldn't be too much of a problem.
now that was a Scout Bridge,
Yes, it
wasn't
was. I looked
But-
this morning and I can't remember the scout's name who did it. It's I think it was actually the very first bridge we did
I
over
think-
there.
I think it was, but it surprises me because didn't we use cedar on all of the
I don't
bridges?
think that one is cedar. I think it's pressure treated.
Oh,
Doesn't
okay.
look like cedar, but
Okay.
then
That
again,
might have
it's,
been before we spec'd all that. That was so early. It might have been before.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
it's held up it held up great actually. If it wouldn't have been for the tree smacking it,
I
we
went
did
out.
get
Oh, go ahead.
these in. Oh, that's funny.
I can't see him.
If it's reflective, so the camera's not picking it up. The trail signs came in. Oh, there we go.
Oh,
That's funny. Oh my God. It's like an invisibility cloak. Um, anyway, the trail signs came in for the evacuation thing. So they look pretty good. They're large enough. They can be seen from a distance. So, we will get those in ASAP.
that's great. Now, Harold, why don't you give an update on what you did with the emergency personnel in mapping the trails?
We have a program called Active 911. Anytime we get a fire run or EMS run, we're automatically it's active right to locate. We went and mapped out every mile marker, every red, blue, green, orange, the emergency evacuation points, and we actually brought a saw with us too. And we took out about 11 trees that were since that storm, especially on the green and red trail that were right over the pass. So we did a little bit of work down there, but then we had to unfortunately get out of there for a run. So we had to leave, but we did a little bit of work there, mapped it all out. So no matter who's working at Station 10, which is a prospect station, if they get a run down there, they should know exactly where they're going, or pretty darn close. So, fine, I can get with you sometime. We can go hook up those signs whenever. Just let me know.
And then I think there are some, you mentioned that there are some mile markers that need to be
Yes, the point
corrections
3,
made or whatever.
yeah, the point 3 on the orange trail is missing. The point 4 is labeled as point 8, and the point 6 mile marker is set about 50 feet off the trail. Those are the 3 I know of right off the top of my head.
I'll get with you and we'll get those fixed.
Yeah, as I was mentioning to Harold, we moved the Blue Trail at one point, and so that's why that one marker is so far off the trail, because we moved the trail, so.
On the
we
Orange
could-
Trail, the post is missing and everything for the 0.3. So I don't know if it got washed away or what, but it's a sign.
Yeah, it's probably exactly what happened to it.
Yeah,
That or somebody took it and threw it in the creek. That happens too. So
okay. So I wanted to give you an update on the conversations we've had with various individuals on Putney Pond and managing the pond. And two things have happened. I think it was maybe the day after our last meeting that Ron and I met with MSD, and they said they needed to go back and sort of talk to their people and get a sense of what their stance would be at if we wanted to do something to actively manage the pond. And so I'm just going to read you part of what Tony Marconi, who's the planning manager for MSD, this is what he sent back to me. MSD is the local agency for stormwater, floodplain, and erosion and sediment control. So it's very likely that any work that takes place would have some level of review and permitting required by MSD. And then he gave me a contact person that I could talk to about specific requirements. There would also likely be reviews required by the Army Corps of Engineers and the Kentucky Division of Water. So if we decided to do anything to actively manage the pond, we would have to have at least 3 other agencies involved in that review and permitting process. I also got an email from Madeline Heredia, who is our contact with the Kentucky Heritage Land Conservation Fund. And they're the ones we work with for the conservation easement on that property. And she said, this is also, I'm just reading from her email. We had our KHLCF meeting last week, and I presented your pond restoration project ideas to the board. The stewardship committee and the board agree that letting it fill in is acceptable and encouraged. However, they will not have any issues if you choose to move forward with a project to restore the pond. The decision is up to you. Now, she did say that if we decided to take action, and I think I mentioned this, maybe it was in my, I don't know if it was in the meeting minutes or the report to City Council, but they would require us to send them a letter, let them know what our plans are, and give them the opportunity to object if they had any concerns about a way to go. I would also say that when I'm not sure how many, if any of you watched the City Council meeting, but when I presented my report last month to the council, there was some concern that we really needed a little more guidance from the council on not only taking action or looking at options for Putney Pond, but maybe broader issues. And so I have not done anything further. And I guess my advice would be, and I would appreciate any input from other committee members, but I think that maybe we just don't do anything more actively until the new council is seated. And because no action, whatever we do, nothing would happen before the new council is in place. And maybe work with the council to get their guidance about what exactly is their idea of the direction that this committee should be taking and how to proceed. So I'd appreciate any comments on that.
Linda,
Yes.
this is John. Who was telling us or telling you that they encouraged letting it fill in? Who was that?
That was the Kentucky Heritage Land Conservation Fund. That is the agency that provided 50% of the funds to purchase Putney Pond and Woodlands property.
Okay.
We also got a similar advice from, oh, I'm blanking on his name now, the Kentucky Waterways Alliance executive director,
Ward Wilson.
Ward Wilson.
Did they
And-
say why?
Yes, they said that actually wetlands support more wildlife than open ponds do. And unless our vision for Putney Pond, at least this is what Ward said, if our vision for Putney Pond is that we want a fishing pond, then maybe we want to do something to preserve it as a pond. If we're looking for a way to support the most diverse wildlife, wetlands do a better job of that than open ponds do. Other discussions that I've had, kind of off the record, and I think Ron would agree with this, no matter what we do, I mean, if we decided we were going to spend the big bucks and dredge the pond and stabilize the shoreline, we're still going to be fighting a constant battle because of continued development upstream on property that we have no control over. And so I think there's going to be a constant sedimentation issue. And if we really decide that we want to keep it as an open pond or build a pier or encourage fishing or whatever, that's really going to be a very long-term issue. And I think we need our eyes open to that.
Wouldn't, you talk about it reverting to a wetlands, but wouldn't the continued sedimentation over time turn it more into a meadow than a wetland?
Well, I say there will always be water flowing through because it is Little Hunting Creek that's been dammed up, and Little Hunting Creek is going to continue to pour water into that area. It may be that a portion of that land is going to be more like a meadow, but I think there's always going to be a wetland area. I don't know, Ron, maybe you can speak.
It will end up exactly like what the boardwalk goes through now. Cattails and trees like willows and that type stuff. Most of the time it's solid enough to walk on, but after a flood, and that's exactly what would happen down there. Probably at the beginning would flood more often than not. Every time we get a big rain that pushes too much water for the dam to let out at one time. Because basically all we have to do that, to get it rolling, is go on and cut slots in the spillway wall, and it'll drain. If that's the route we decide to go, which would be the cheapest, obviously, I'm recommending we just go on and take that whole wall out, because the what MSD suggested was cutting slots in it to drain it. That's going to be a clog every week. Everything that comes down the creek is going to get stuck in between those cuts, and we'll be down there at least once a week cleaning it out. So I think we ought to just kick the whole wall when we do it. And
Think about too, that Ryan, and what you're mentioning is this is like a decade-long thing, probably before you have to make that decision, is my thought. That's totally just a get, you know what I mean? And so we can probably project out like, ooh, would we take the whole wall down? Would we whatever? It may become apparent where that water, because it's going to, you know what I mean? It's going to create its final path or whatever for the continuous flow, and it'll overflow from there. So it may tell us and then get a solid solution then,
Oh, you can pretty much look at it now and tell where the creek is going to be. It's just like I said, every time we get a hard rain, that would flood and then go back down. So,
Well, Ron, help me out here. Why would we want to take the wall out?
all right, just so to put everything in perspective, at the dam where the spillway is,
Right.
just before it goes over, there is a 26-inch concrete retaining wall.
Right,
That's what determines the level of the lake.
okay.
If that wall is not there, it drops down to ground level. There's no water being retained by the dam at that point.
Yeah, I understand, but why would you want to take that away?
If we're going to make it into a wetland, you might as well.
Or we could just let it fill in over time. I guess,
It wouldn't. That's the thing. Everything would it would build up there, and then when we got a big rain, it would push it over the dam. It would, what's the word? It would make a siltation problem downstream from everything building up and then coming out at one time rather than staying clean. If that makes any sense.
yeah, I think what
Doesn't
you're
to me.
saying is when we get a heavy rain event, it would push a bunch of mud and debris over the dam into.
Which is going to build up in front of the dam until we get that cleaning rain. And
that's going to cause a problem in Harrods Creek and ultimately, I guess, into the Ohio.
I would think that that might be something that in that 5-10 year range, as that starts to fill in as a meadow, my thought then would be, if it is getting bad downstream of there, that may be where MSD does want to step in, if they have to figure out, okay, hey, we're harming Harrods Creek, or there's a resident train of things we got to figure out, but that goes, at least from my perspective, I might be wrong, but goes to MSD then at that point, because that's down the line.
right. We brought that up during our meeting at the dam, and they didn't seem too concerned. Because I was kind of hoping we put it out that, hey, what if we just say the heck with it and let it go back to a creek, and everything that washes down, and they didn't seem too impressed. So,
Well, I mean, they are the experts. I'll give them that.
Yeah. Any other?
So
any
we
other thoughts?
decided, Linda, if we decide to do this, let it become a wetland, would it make sense to go back to the three agencies we talked about and inform them and tell them, and then get any guidance for any subsequent action, for instance, removing the dam or keeping the dam, and maybe MSD would be a little more interested in terms of the ramifications, because this is what we're going to do as opposed to a what if.
Right.
oh, I have the feeling that's exactly when they'll get involved. Is when we've already made a decision, and oh no, we can't do that.
Well, I do think
Their
that,
money, not ours. That's
Right.
Yeah.
and we still may decide that we need to have some independent outside agency give us their thoughts.
Ultimately, we may also want to do a poll of the residents and
Yeah.
see what they want. It's their tax money. I mean, they may not want a pond there. I get the feeling they do, but
Yeah, and as well as the ramifications, if we're going to have a pond there, how often we're going to have to dredge it, and that's some big bucks. Okay.
Yep.
And then,
Well,
and one of the problems is figuring out where to put the dredging.
that is the biggest problem, is trying to figure out what we're going to do with it.
But I think your idea is, before we make a
Sarah,
decision,
you muted it there.
is to get input from residents.
Yeah, I think Ron was right on there, Don. Yeah. What I was going to say, it does, I've only moved back 3 years ago, and the rain events that I have seen in the last 3 years have been remarkable. And so I'm thinking that's probably going to continue down the road as well. And so, like Don's talking about, that silting back in, and our efforts, we may be climbing up a real steep hill that may become vertical at some point, of the amount of silt and what to do with all that. So good thoughts overall.
Well, something to consider too, that I don't think I did a very good job conveying it with the MSD meeting the other day though, but if we let that go down to where it's a creek, just going straight to the dam and going straight out, it's going to increase water velocity. You've got a huge amount of water now going into a wider pond. When it goes down to just a creek, you decrease the area for water to move. It moves faster. So I mean, it's basic hydraulics, and well, maybe MST will get interested then. So
And I think we tried to talk to them about the fact that that pond is acting as a retention basin when we do have these events. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, Ron, is that if there's no pond there anymore, there's no dam there anymore. It's really going to.
like I said, the pond absorbs some of the energy of the water coming in from the creek.
Mhm.
Once you take that pond out of the equation, that water's going to do nothing but run faster.
So a question for residents would not only be in favor of keeping the pond or letting it become a wetland, but if you want it to remain a pond, are you willing for our tax dollars to support that?
Yeah, this is the cost of doing that, right?
Exactly. They should, be, before they're asked that question, they should be informed
Oh, yeah,
about what it would take to do that.
And I think
Oh,
that's where a study would come in to actually hire someone that could give us a, better idea of what exactly would have to be done and what the cost would be to do it. So.
With that is if it does turn out to be like a 50K plus study, is there a way to figure out, because I do think, Carolyn, it's good to have them in tandem, like, hey, if you do want it a pond, here's the cost to that. But if you spend 50K to find out it's going to be $2 million,
Yeah.
that's a tough pill.
Mhm.
And I don't know how you get around that without potentially seeking out, maybe there's free, I don't know how somebody would give free advice, because I'm sure they have to know the depth, they have to know the width, they have to know the composition of it, they got to know the access. There's so much to it. But that's my fear. It's spending 50K to be told, yeah, it's going to be real expensive.
And I think that's why I've been trying to talk to organizations that can give us advice for free, or at least take a look and give us their thoughts for free, because I don't want to spend thousands of dollars that maybe could be spent in a better way for the park. So any other further thoughts?
Other than just whether it's going to be a pond or wetlands, I mean, is there anything we want to do with the concrete around it in the past and the tables and just the whole design of it? If it's whether it's a pond, a wetland, whatever, we end up a river, stream. Is there anything we want to do and could have designed, have somebody come in? Is there anything else we want to do with it, or then just decide whether it's going to be what the center is going to be, what the attraction is going to be essentially?
Well, if it went to a wetland, it would be, you're talking 5-6 years, at least minimum 5-6 years before it would be stable enough to do anything on anyway. I think we would definitely, if we decide to just kick the spillway and let it roll, then we would definitely want to work on a plan after that of how to best use the wetland for like educational trails or what have you. There's a lot of stuff that we could do with it, but personal opinion is I like the pond, but I don't live here. It's not my money. I don't care.
I like the pond too, but we all know how much it's going to cost to dredge it, and then there's no guarantee that one time it's done. Obviously, that's not true. We're going to have to keep doing it continuously, and the problem is we don't know how much or how often. And how much. But
Is there?
Well,
Oh,
that's the thing. I'm sorry, Sarah. That's the thing too, though. We're not just talking the pond. If we just dredge the pond and don't do anything about the stretch of creek from Fox Harbor to the pond, we just wasted money, because it's just going to keep the bank's going to keep eroding. It's going to keep filling in. So,
yeah,
So it's really an expensive project.
Absolutely. I would like, I mean, I like the pond, and I would be nice to have a pier going a quarter of the way out, so the kids can go and fish and do stuff like that. Right now, I see people down there fishing, and it's more of a mess, especially with kids, just because you can't cast. There's nothing, you can't get the fish. It's a mess, but there's definitely some potential, but I know that would cost a lot of money.
If you go back to our original grant application, one of the things we said we wanted to do was to build a fishing pier. So that's going back 12 or 13 years ago. And of course, we have been building trails and doing other things in the meantime. But that was one of the original ideas. Of course, the pond wasn't as silted in 12 years ago as it is now. So
I guess the question would be, would there be other places where you could build a fishing pier that would be closer to where the actual creek was and not not the pond? Because the people I see fishing in Putney Pond don't look like they're trying to catch anything. Now the people fishing in the creek look like they're trying to catch stuff that they brought back. I see a lot of casual enjoyment of I have a pole in my hand, which is outdoors, good solid scenario. But
That's the secret to fishing.
something to think about.
Well, I think a lot of good discussion here. I guess we're not going to make a decision now, but I'd like everyone to continue to think about this. The other place that I haven't talked to, and maybe I should, the Soil and Water Division, whatever that's called. I think Tony from MSD also said they've got a lot of experience with farm ponds, and not that that's the type of structure that we have now, but they also might be a source of inexpensive information. So, and I have not tried to contact anyone there, so I can try to do that too.
Hey, Ron, is it possible to get a free estimate for dredging?
We need to decide on the scope of what we want to do first, then we can get an estimate. I had my uncle come out. It's been 10 years ago now, but my uncle used to own a very large construction company. I had him come out and look at it, and the family price, joking around, the family price was going to be $2 million.
Ah,
That he said,
with the
he said
family discount?
that was with the family discount, yeah.
In a premium for the family.
But he was saying that the problem is that everything has to be hauled off and treated, and that's where the real money comes in. If we had somewhere we could put the dirt and treat it and turn it and all that, it'd be a different story. But we would actually have to pay to have it hauled off.
Well, I heard Sandra suggested one time that we put it in the lot next to the city hall to build it for a parking lot. Parking lot. But so
That'd be a horrible smell.
Well,
that you need a retaining wall for your new.
That's a new wall, right?
Yeah.
But
So right off the bat, our choices is spending at least a couple $1 billion for dredging, or let it become a wetlands that promotes wildlife growth, and not spend any money, or spend a little money.
Spend a little money.
some educational signs.
Seems to me it's an easy decision.
I'm with Don.
I'm with you too, Don.
Yep.
Got all of our votes.
Public input would be the biggest thing, I think, before we make a decision.
How can we go about that?
We could put something in the newsletter. Actually, I think I can do surveys on the.
You embed in the newsletter. Embed
think
a
so.
survey
I
or
think
whatever.
so. The group mail we've got, I believe I can do one through that. I'm not sure. But I'd check it out. But
Ron, your skill set never ceases to amaze me.
Well, I think we need to
wear
have,
many hats and none of them fit. So
we need to make sure that we've got sufficient information at hand
Yeah.
to help the
Mhm.
public decide what they think we should be doing, you know, what the options are. And so I don't think we're there yet.
maybe maybe there's a dredging company that would give us a free estimate, just so we had an estimate. Just something
I wonder if
rough.
there's projects like that, you know, MSD does the restoration work. They're doing whatever, is it Beargrass Creek, whatever. I'm not sure if they've done a project where they dredge something like totally not the same, but just hey, your startup, this is your entry level to get in the game is X. Maybe there's a number there, you know, to be had.
Well, should we form a little subcommittee to kind of pull all this together and then bring back some information to the group before we go public with it? And I'll volunteer to be on that.
Yeah, I think we need to have, you know, we probably need a working group that's going to spend some time outside of this meeting. And I'm not sure, Mayor, maybe you can tell me what limitations there are and what we need to do in terms of open meeting laws and, you know, council members versus committee members and that sort of thing. Oh, you're muted.
There you go, Lost.
Okay. Yeah, I would err on the side of safety and just let us put out a 24-hour notice whenever the subgroup meets and you be safe.
Okay.
And actually, I'd like to be on that.
Okay. Great. Okay. I think this gives us a sense of direction, and others that are interested in participating, you can let me know, and then we'll figure out when we can get together and either maybe meet at the pond or elsewhere. Weather's getting cold. I'm still not anxious or eager to do a lot of in-person meetings with groups, but I bet we could twist Ron's arm to help us do a virtual meeting.
Oh, we could probably manage that.
Yeah, experts that might help us could join us as well. So that's good.
Yeah, this virus has really taken off.
It is, and it's very concerning.
It's going to get worse during the winter.
Oh, yeah. Anything else on parks? Meeting. Hardly ever her. So Lynn Granger, maybe you can give us a scout update?
I can. No more projects at this time. She's the first young lady in Kentucky to get on the Boy Scouts. Next week, Natalie Young will be up for her Eagle Board review, and if successful, which I'm sure she'll be the first young woman to get an Eagle and also get the highest. She has the highest Girl Scout award, which is a Gold Award.
Oh.
So that's a couple of good things. We had a third young lady that had asked about, a project. We talked last meeting about doing something in Cali Park, picnic tables and all that, and she's opted that she's not in the wood construction projects business, so she's going to go another direction. I am sure at some point I'll have some scouts show up again, and maybe in the spring we'll find some resources, scouting resources to pursue that. But otherwise, it's about where we are.
Okay. Does anyone have any other business that we should discuss today?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Lynn, I didn't understand what you were talking about, finding resources. Can you explain?
I was, as far as kids raising their hands and want to do this type of Eagle project.
Okay,
So if we get some more Eagle Scout candidates.
all right.
What happens this time of year, the weather comes in and all that stuff. They may, start kicking this around. The chances of us getting someone getting it all done would probably, it's going to be in the spring would be the earliest time.
Right.
Okay, Linda,
Yes,
I saw a book, notice David Wicks posted that the trail run folks plan to do a virtual, sort of a semi-virtual run in Harrods Creek Park. So the way it's going to work is that people can sign up on the website. It's a $25 fee. And then they have between something like, I don't know, don't hold me to these dates, but it's something like from November 22nd to December 7th to do their own run, walk, you know, on the route, either the 5K or the 10K. And then all the money raised would go to the parks. So I didn't know if you were aware of that. But it is on their website now, and I can send you that link if you don't have it.
I have heard nothing from Zach. We did this, Ron did respond to his request for the regular trail bash, and we all agreed that that was just not the right thing to do this year. So I know that in another conversation I had with Zach earlier in the year, they've done some of these virtual runs, but I'm kind of surprised that he didn't say anything to me about it. Did you hear anything from him, Ron, about a virtual? Ron, are you?
Sorry, I just switched screens to look for see if I can find anything on it.
Oh, okay.
No, he did not mention anything at all to me.
So, yeah, if you would send, maybe Carolyn, maybe you could send the link to both me and Ron. So we
Yeah,
can,
I'll have to find that again. I accessed it through Facebook, but I can find it. And they're doing several trail bash events, and the other two may be real day of events, but it was clear that the one for Harrods Creek Park would be what they call a virtual event, which isn't exactly virtual, but it's a do it at your own time, at your own pace, and but there's still the registration fee, and the money would go to the parks. And I thought that was really a great idea for them to do that. I mean, it
There
would
it
be
is.
nice if they had contacted you. Yeah, there it is.
oh. Huh.
So yeah, and when you go to their site, there's a place to click for more information, to sign up. There's a map of the routes. It's all organized as they, usually are so good at doing.
As long as they're not building a crowd, I really don't have an issue with it. So I'm trying to read through the info now. I don't know how well you all can see what I've got up.
Yeah, you can expand it if you have an iDevice, but yeah, I mean, it's over about a 2-week period.
Right.
So, it's just people doing it on their own and feeling like they're being a part of supporting the parks and, doing sort of a pandemic style event.
Well, I thank you for bringing that to our attention, and I'll take a look a little closer at that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I would go ahead and sign up to do it, and even if I don't do it, it's a contribution to the parks, so I'll probably try and do it.
Sounds good. And we still
Yeah,
do
that
have
would,
people that run the trails and so forth. I'm sorry, Ron, you were,
oh, no, that's fine. I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this now.
oh.
Put something in the newsletter about it and get some interest in it.
Sarah, was there something that you were wanting to say?
There we
Oh
go.
no, I had a totally it was a totally separate topic, like just a general question, not about anything we've talked about right now. So
Well,
if
go
you're at the
ahead.
general question, oh okay. Yeah, no, I had a thought the other day. I was wondering if anybody had ever thought, and we may not need it, but to have like one. Sorry, I'm in the car on the way to pick up my daughter, so sorry if the noise is bad. To have one trail in like Harrods Creek Park or a portion even in one of the other parks or something as a paved portion, for like handicap. I know there's a handicap parking spot at the bottom of Harrods Creek, or for like moms and strollers, but also wheelchairs, kind of like you run the gamut, as like one sort of, hey, there is one paved option for me to go do or something. I don't know if that's something that with anyone else has ever seen someone mention or thought about it. We have so many other places to walk. It may not actually be needed. I just didn't know. Like I said, totally random.
It actually has come up before, and the Orange Trail would be the obvious, easiest choice to do that on. The
Yeah.
problem comes in with the logistics. Um,
Oh, okay.
Once you build this path, that path has to be maintained.
Yeah.
We don't have the equipment to clean it after a flood,
Okay.
which
Yeah. I
you're
had a feeling it
gonna
was
run.
probably something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then even if we did have the equipment, we don't have anywhere to keep the equipment. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we get back to
Yeah.
that. So that's kind of what killed that. Yeah,
Okay.
that has come up before.
Yeah. Just random thought. Thanks.
And I guess the other, we've got the paved road across Putney Pond. It's kind of steep going from the parking circle down, so that makes it a little difficult. Someone with a stroller could do it. I don't know if an individual alone in a wheelchair could. But all of our other trails they're really too hilly to try to create that. I guess the boardwalk sort of is that way. I guess you have to go across the grass to get to the start of it, but once you're on the
Yeah.
boardwalk.
Yeah, the problem with most of them, the lead up to all these locations are
It's
grass or
too much.
unpaved or something, or hill. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So there is one other thing that I would like to have us think about, and it would require some council input. So I just want to put it in your, just as a thought. We are getting more and more, we have more and more work to be done with invasive plant removals and fewer volunteers to do it. And we need to figure out a way to either recruit more volunteers, and I'm open to any ideas. Part of the problem is that there are a lot of people that really don't want to work with herbicides, and maybe don't really want to be hiking the trails, carrying loppers and a bottle of herbicide to spray. A lot of our volunteers are aging, like me. And we've done a lot of the easy places to get to. So a lot of the areas that we really need to work on now are on slopes or places that are just a little more difficult, longer hikes, steeper slopes. And one thing we could think about would be to consider requesting funding to have a professional group come in and do the hard stuff, with the thinking that we can still, with volunteers, do the garlic mustard and the areas that are along the trails and easily accessible. And then if we got some of the hard stuff taken care of, we could maintain it ourselves with volunteers. So that's just a thought. It's just a germ of a thought I've been considering. And would appreciate some input after you've had a chance to think about that a little bit. Let's see. So,
I think that would be a good idea to pursue, at least to get a quote, maybe.
we
Because it continues to be a problem, and it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better by itself, and I think it has become, too much for some of us to do. And I'm just not sure we can rely on volunteer help to do some of the larger projects like that. And like Linda says, I'm happy to continue to pull garlic mustard and Japanese stilt grass and that sort of thing. But lugging around canisters of pesticide, not so much. So I would second that thought, Linda.
Several years ago, there was a company, and this may go back to when Todd Everly was mayor. I'd have to go back and look. There was a company that actually approached us, and they did a quote demonstration project in Harrods Creek Park and removed a whole bunch of bush honeysuckle. And they were hoping to get a contract to do more work, and we just didn't have any funding we could rely on to do that. And I'm not sure that we will in the future, but it may be something that we should put on our list of requests and make a case that for the hard stuff, we really need a little help. The easy stuff we can do ourselves, and if we get a lot of the big jobs done, we could continue to maintain it on our own. So just
I agree with Carolyn. I think you need to get a bid, get an estimate of what money would be needed for that, and we can address it.
I think we need to establish a project area to start with.
Right. And also what is it that we want them to do? We don't want them to do garlic mustard, that's easy. But maybe we want them to do winter creeper where the big vines are all the way up the trees, the bush honeysuckle on the steep slopes. And there's probably some other things, privet and some other invasives that we might want to work with. So I'll give some thought to that, and also look up in my records the contact information for the group that did it before, and see what we can find out.
Good.
Okay. So the next thing on the agenda is a next meeting day and time, and a question about whether we want to meet in December. Any thoughts? I don't know that we've got any real pressing.
No, we have anything to do.
I think we often take December off. So I guess whether you feel like there's anything that would be coming up, for an agenda, because I don't think we need to meet just to meet.
Right.
January's
And I think
good.
maybe it would be better for us to establish a working group and have the working group, talk about Putney Pond and the way we want to approach any deliberations on that before this group meets again.
Well,
So,
Don volunteered and I volunteered.
and you volunteered, and I don't know if there's anyone else on the committee that's interested. And
I'm going to
Okay.
stick to the trails.
you're going to stick to the trails, okay? I think anyone that's interested should just shoot me an email and let me know. And then I'll be in touch with folks. I'm hoping that Ron will be willing to be involved in the working group, or at least host the meetings.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah. Okay. So does anyone else do we want to set a date for January, or do we want to wait and have me send out an email? Trying to look at my calendar here for for January. I'm not even sure if the council dates have been confirmed for next year. They probably have, but
Council typically meets on the second Monday in January.
okay, that would be the 11th. Do we want to try to meet before the next council meeting, or do we want to, I don't think we'll necessarily have anything to report to council, but
Hey, boss, I've got the council meeting as January 18th.
isn't that Martin Luther King Day?
That's why maybe it's not been moved on the calendar yet.
That's usually why we have it on.
Yeah, it
the
is.
second Monday,
Yeah.
because of Martin Luther
So it
King
would
Day.
be the 11th.
Right.
Yeah. So any thoughts? I mean, we could meet on the 6th or the 7th if you wanted to meet before council.
Just pick any day and I can be there.
All right. I think Sarah has a preference for day of the week, but I can't remember what it is.
I'm fine either way, Linda. My only thought with having it, or actually my only limb fact is if we can have it starting no later than 2 o'clock would be best for me, because then at the trail end I can drive and get Charlotte, but that way I can pay more attention for the first 45 minutes or so. And then my only thought with having it potentially, I just remembered right after the council meeting, would be to potentially follow up on what you had brought up at the beginning of the meeting about, you know, is there some kind of extra clarification, or maybe that subgroup would come up with something. I'm not sure if that's something we want to think about for Putney Pond, that is.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking of that as the working group trying to come up with that.
I gotcha. Yeah. Well, then I'm good. I prefer 2 o'clock and earlier if we're able to do that. But the day doesn't necessarily matter.
Okay, any other thoughts?
Well, Linda, if you come up with something
Time of
perfect
day.
before then, we always can schedule a meeting, just as long as we have a notice.
Yeah, that's true. And I haven't done it yet, but I'm usually off that first week of the year. So
Okay. Well, why don't we wait and
I can
we'll,
always have Rusty run a meeting. So
right. But we like your input on park stuff too. I think Rusty would be a little more reluctant to chime in.
oh, Rusty would probably sit here and be biting his tongue, but you want to what?
Okay, well, I'll be in touch with the next meeting, and I'll also be in touch with people on the working group. If you're interested in being involved, send me an email and let me know. So thank you for a good meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Linda,
Bye-bye.
bye.